Hey, welcome to this video where I'd like to talk about the Hamstead Ascent Clean Boost. Now I need to start by saying this isn't a sponsored video, so this is something I bought out of my own money to solve a problem I had when performing. This is a very simple, practical, functional pedal. So it's a clean 20 decibel boost. So the problem comes at a gig when you're playing rhythm and your turn comes to solo and you've got to adjust the volume just to give yourself a little bit more volume to be heard. The pitfalls of that is you can't be that precise. You know, in the middle of a gig, you can't really afford the time to look down here and go, oh, when I return back to rhythm playing, I'll put it back to 7 or 6. And when I go for lead, it's easy to feel when you go up to 10, obviously, because it doesn't go any further. But to get back into a rhythm guitar volume, it's hard to be as precise when you knock it down without looking when you're focusing on the important thing of playing. Now, if you look at a picture of how my pedal board used to be, I used to solve this problem with the RC Booster version 2, just to give me a bit of a boost when I solo. But problems I found with this, it really altered the tone of the guitar, and it also brought in a little bit of gain, which, you know, occasionally is desirable, but not most of the time playing jazz. At this point, you're probably thinking, why not just get a volume pedal? Personally, I don't particularly like volume pedals. Again, I don't think it's hard to be precise to put it, you know, to set 2 volumes and keep it at that. And obviously a pedal board for a jazz guitarist can be about changing the sound, but I think the pedals which, you know, make your life easier are as important. And I think this pedal does just that. This is the first pedal I've ever tried from Hamstead. I know they make very good quality amps too. Feels a great quality build. Now this pedal came about as a way to support guitar techs and people in the industry when they're unable to work last year. And if you go to the Hamstead website, it tells you which guitar techs were involved, and you can work out by the on the back the initials who's made yours. This was made by Ryan Wyatt. Now this is a pedal anybody could use because it's so simple. It is simply a switch, a good quality switch at that, and then you've got the volume knob here, control for the gain. So that all the way up there will give you 20 decibels of gain. Now, Hamstead say this, when you kick this in, it doesn't colour your tone in any way. It's transparent, clean boost, which is what appealed to me. So hopefully this will make changing between rhythm and lead volumes simple as that. And hopefully the tone will remain the same too. But let's find out. Let me do it through a couple of my amps so you can get a sense of how it works with different amps. So I'll use first my Tonemaster Twin, so solid state, then my Fender Princeton, then my Deluxe Reverb, and then my Vintage 47. Let's see how it behaves with each. So my Tonemaster Twin is on the 85 watt setting, so the full volume. Got the guitar on 10 on my neck pickup, so this is the sound. So not too loud. Now I've got the Hamstead here, the Ascent, I've got it set at 9 o'clock, so this is the difference. So play the same thing. Off again. On. Now let's knock it up a notch, so we're at sort of 10 o'clock. Turn it off. On. Knock it up to halfway, so this is 12 o'clock. On. Here's the sound. Back to rhythm. I'm really pleased with that. That really does, but I'd be using it like, you know, I've got my rhythm guitar volume, and normally at the click of a foot, and then, and I can get that extra bit of volume easily. Let's hear it with a different amp. So here's the Princeton Reverb 68 reissue. So this is a valve amp, so it might behave a little bit differently here, but we'll find out. So I've got the volume on 2. There it is. Guitar volume's on 10. Got the Ascent there on like 9. So that difference for lead volume, so I'd be at rhythm. Then lead. Let's push push it a little bit more, so I'm going to put it about 11 o'clock. So I've got my then a bit of lead. So let's push it a little bit more. I've got it on 12 o'clock now. I suspect we're going to get a little bit of crunch. So this is my volume, halfway, so considerably louder. Bit of harmonic breakup there. You can hear that. Not massive though. A little bit more, so I'm going 1 o'clock. So it's less of a clean boost now, isn't it? Now let's go 3 o'clock. So that's really changing, and I'm sure if I went all the way. So that's a bit obviously too much gain than we would probably want for our tone, unless you're after that sort of slightly broken up early jazz tone like your Charlie Christian. But you know, for rhythm guitar, I really don't want any breakup. But for lead, sometimes it's nice, you know, in your double stops to have a little bit of colour from the crunch. But I think I'll mainly sit with this if I was using this amp on that sort of volume. So I'll be able to go and then. But I quite like the way, you know, it's obviously doing what it's intended to do. I feel like from the tones we've had so far, it's not altering the tone, not to my ears anyway. You might feel differently. The other thing I really like, it's very simple to use, just that one knob. You could easily adjust that during a gig. So if you were, you know, sometimes on stage and your amp's behind you, it's very difficult to get up in between a song. You've got the lead, you've got, you know, the guitar to be mindful of. To actually then go and change the volume, it's not to say you can't do it, but it's a bit of a pain. If you can just do it at your feet, at a touch of a knob, that's just so much more convenient. So we tried the solid state amp, the Twin. We've tried the Princeton, which is, I believe, is it 12 or 15 watts tube amp. And now we have the Deluxe Reverb, 22.5 watts. This obviously has greater headroom than the Princeton, but let's see how it behaves with this too. So this amp is really my workhorse. I use this for most gigs. The Princeton's great. I love the tone of that. I like gigging that, but it has to be in the smaller venues. So this one's perfect, you know, for larger venues, or you know, it can obviously be mic'd up too for bigger places. I tend to sit on channel 1 on this because I feel it's got a better jazz tone. So I've got the volume on about 2, and this is what it sounds like. Okay, so we've got a nice tone there. So this time let's start a bit lower on the Hamstead. So I've got it at like 7 o'clock, or the first notch if you like. So knock it up. Let's go 9 o'clock. 10 o'clock or so. We're not getting any gain yet, any sort of breakup yet. This is 11 o'clock. Let's try maybe a tiny bit in there. We'll go 12 o'clock. There's a bit there. Ooh. Just a little bit on the top there. Let's go again and go about 1 o'clock. 3 o'clock. Don't know why this is making me play blues licks. But anyway, as you can hear, it's interacting in the same way as the Princeton, but because we've got more headroom, I'm really having to knock this up quite high to get it to break up at all. So if you wanted it as a way to have just a bit of crunch, you'd have to have an amp with the right amount of headroom. Finally, let's try my vintage 47, which is kind of trying to sort of be a faithful reproduction of the old Gibson amps, the sort of thing Charlie Christian used. So this is the vintage 47. You see on the back, it's pretty basic. Like the old original amp, we just got simply volume and tone, and we've got 2 inputs, and we've got a microphone input too. So it's a very old school amp. Now this amp is a very old fashioned sound. You know, it's got a very basic sound all on the back. It's simply just volume and tone. You've got a couple different inputs you can use. So this is my volume, guitars on 10, Hamstead on 9. So put the Hamstead up a little bit. Getting a little bit more hairy, about 11 or 12. Really happy that. For lead, that would be really nice. In terms of, maybe let's see rhythm. So as we can clearly hear there, that's the amp which is set up to break up soonest. So that's makes it a bit more limited in, I think, where and when you can use it, because of the headroom that you need on a stage for people to be able to hear you, and not really wanting the breakup when you're playing chords, but a little bit of it in the rhythm is nice. But I think we can see how this can work with an amp with a higher headroom. It can work as a very clear, transparent boost, which gives you the opportunity just to simply have more volume at the touch of a button. With these amps like the Princeton and definitely this vintage 47, it's a case of, well, it's going to push you into slightly hairier tones territory, which might be something you're after. But I think with the right amp, that Hamstead is a perfect, simple solution to avoiding having to fiddle with your controls too much on the guitar. That point when you're playing with other people and it's your turn to solo, if you've got it's just another thing you've got to do. And I think really, just at the stamp of the foot, it's really easy to do without thinking about it. And then you can concentrate on the important thing of your opening phrase to your solo, or if you're closing off your solo, you're not sort of trying to finish it off whilst thinking, I've got to go back to my rhythm guitar volume as well. You simply just stamp a foot when you finish your last phrase. So my final thoughts on this pedal, I'm really impressed. It's a product which does what it says it should do, which sometimes you don't get with pedals or amps and things. It doesn't quite work how you think it should, or wasn't quite what you hope for. It's obviously not the most exciting thing to buy, but it's that functionality which just, I think, makes the playing experience on the stage, playing with other people, much smoother, much easier. Often play gigs where you sound check, you get all the volumes right, and then suddenly when the place is full of bodies, full of people, everything obviously changes in the room, and sometimes your original volume might not be enough. So I think, like I said, having the ability to do that at my feet, in front of me on a pedalboard, is so much easier than potentially having to put the guitar down and go back and change something on the amp. So obviously there's some gigs where a sound man can obviously sort these things out too. And for me, this pedal is also supporting people in the industry. That was why it came about. So I believe a percentage of the sale goes towards Help Musicians charity, as well as I think the techs involved in making and designing this pedal. Really impressed with the build quality, functionality, and it's making me think I need to check out some other pedals. So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think it worked well as a clean boost, or did you hear a difference in the tone? In their marketing, they say near to zero tonal coloration. I mean, you'd have to have really incredible ears, I think, to hear a big difference. I couldn't discern anything. Not something that made me feel like, this isn't quite the same sound when you kick it in. Whereas my RC Boost, it completely coloured the tone. And yes, there was the ability that did have EQ on it. It still just coloured the tone too much for me. Anyway, all right, enough of me yapping on about it. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll see you on my next video. Lessons, gear demos like this every Wednesday and Saturday. Till next time, you take care.